3, 4, 5.
All right, I'll start by taking the roll call. Elizabeth?
I'm here. I have to leave at 4 o'clock.
Okay. We'll try to be efficient. Steve?
I am here.
And Nicole?
Here.
Bruce?
I'm here.
Rita?
Here.
And I'm here. Okay, welcome to this hearing via Zoom of the Local Historic District Commission. Our purpose is to aid property owners in the town in preserving and protecting the distinctive characteristics and architecture of buildings and places significant in the history of Amherst. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone. We require one of 3 certificates to ensure that new construction and most alterations of exterior architectural features in the district meet the requirements. And for today's hearing, we are going to review 2 different applications, one on Sunset and one on Lincoln, as the first part of the meeting.
We've got 3 hearings.
We've got a third one as well.
Mhm.
Okay. This hearing is open to the public and is being recorded. So we can begin with Walker summarizing the first application.
Yeah, so we're going to start with 21 Sunset. This is a continuation of an application from the last meeting for the removal of a couple of chimneys and the replacement of some roof with metal roofing so that he can install solar on the roof. And we did go over this project some in the last meeting, but the hearing was closed before you could make a decision. So I think the chimneys are still left to be discussed, and they're the primary focus of the deliberations today. And then the metal roof is the other thing to be considered today. So Mr. Roof is here to talk about his projects. So if you would like to go over your project at all or add anything, you're welcome to do.
Would you just let us know the reasons that you're taking down the chimneys?
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. The project overall is to fix up the roofing and at the same time add solar PV to the house to make it more sustainable, reduce its carbon emissions. The chimneys in particular, they have not been used. The front one hasn't been used for 15 years since I converted to a natural gas boiler that vents out the back side of the house. The rear chimney hasn't been used for at least 20 years, the time I've owned the house. Both of those are in danger of toppling over. They exit just through the ridge line. They do not appear on the side of the house anywhere. So they just extend through the roof at the ridge line. And the main reason for getting rid of them is they're a maintenance headache, and they would reduce the amount of PV that I could put on the roof since they extend down on the south side of the slope.
Are there questions and comments from our commissioners? Steve?
I have a question. Do
Yeah.
the guidelines? Oh, I'm sorry. What?
Steve is muted. I believe he was trying to make a comment.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Muting myself. First off, one of the chimneys is not visible, at least when I rode by from the public way. So I don't think I don't think that we have to consider that. And I don't have any problem with, I don't know about the metal roof, but certainly I was not at the meeting last time, but I was gonna, with my own house in the neighborhood, I was gonna try to have artificial slate. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you haven't already heard. And the cost was just, $50,000 to $60,000. So that is a hardship. So I don't have any problem with, part of the roof there is already asphalt. So to me, that's the only thing that's left is the one chimney that's visible. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Bruce?
I agree with Steve, but I hadn't made the determination that one of the chimneys was hidden. But even if it isn't, I think it's consistent to allow people to remove chimneys. Essentially, this is an old technology. The historic record is substantially preserved because you're taking the chimney down to the roof line, but it still exists in the house, and it can be fairly simply reinstated if that was ever intended. But, you know, it is a pain to maintain chimneys. They're very difficult to get to and quite expensive. And secondly, it's not clear that chimneys that were used historically these days are safe to be used, even if they were to be used. So I wouldn't encourage necessarily that we preserve that technology in historic houses. There'll be cases, of course, where the chimney is really a dominant feature. I would think, for example, that I might have a different opinion in one of those really old houses where the huge chimneys with multi-flues came through the middle of the rear roof, and they are a historic feature. These are too. I mean, it's one of those houses where the chimneys were brought in. But I don't have a problem with the removal of them for the reasons stated. And I think I said last time that I was comfortable with a metal roof because I think it's important if you're putting solar PVs in to put a roof on that is that can match the lifespan of the PVs. And so asphalt is not a good solution. I think metal is a very good solution. So I support that all in the in the interest of the historic narrative moving forward. I think this will be the story of the 21st century, or the early part thereof, and I don't think we should be shy about recognizing that, and that the story of this house will continue, and this will be part of its story for this era.
Betty, you had a question?
Yeah, it was a very general question, which is in the regulations for local historic districts, is anything ever said about chimneys?
I can't.
Walker, do you know?
Sorry, repeat the question. I was taking notes.
Oh, I was asking if in the regulations for local historic districts, if anything was ever said about chimneys.
I don't think they're called out specifically in the regulations. They're not exempt from review, but I don't think there was anything specific about them either. That I can remember.
Okay, Frida?
I remember the house right across Mr. Roof's house, from Mr. Roof's house, the Amherst College President's house, I believe. They came to us about their chimneys. And we allowed them to take one of their 2 chimneys down.
Are there any other concerns about the removing the chimneys or replacing the roof? Do I have a motion then to accept these changes?
Just a minute. I will move that we grant a certificate of appropriateness to the applicant at 21 Sunset Avenue for the removal of 2 chimneys and for roof repairs as proposed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second. I'm sorry.
Thanks. Okay, we'll take a vote. Bruce,
Aye.
Nicole,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Frida,
Yes.
and I also approve. So you've been granted your certificates of appropriateness, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
And you'll get that through the portal in a couple days probably, and then you'll be able to proceed.
Great. Thank you very much.
Walker, do you want to present the next project?
Yeah, let me take a look at the agenda and see what I had next.
It's the
363 Main
Bruno's.
Street. So this is, if any of you know, was Bruno's Pizza, and they are looking at converting it to residential, or the possibility of converting it to residential, which would involve removing obviously the signs and anything related to the commercial use, and also altering the position of some of the doors and windows, adding some doors, I believe, and adding new lighting to make it suitable for residential use. And I believe that the applicant is here. If she would like, Willow, would you like to present any information about the project?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Just want
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are looking to convert 363 Main Street from commercial to residential. So that would involve removing the outdoor signage for Bruno's Pizza, and the front door will actually be replaced by a window. there'll be the front door will be from the side of the building. And that we have chosen what is it? It's a feather river doors, 36-inch by 80-inch, 6 light clear Craftsman unfinished smooth left hand in swing fiberglass pre-hung front door. And lighting to be replaced by Sea Light LED gooseneck light with 14-inch angled shroud. And the windows to be Anderson 400 series Woodwright double hung window.
Walker, can you display some pictures for everyone so they can see what we're talking about here?
Yeah, give me a minute. I'm trying to get some stuff loaded. I guess my internet's slow here at home, but
Or I think you can give Rula the ability to present.
yeah, so I can share. I've got the site plan and drawings here. I don't know if I have the proposed like materials. Do you have the ability to share your screen, Rula, and show us some of this?
Let me see if I could do that. Let's see if you guys would be able to see this or not. How would I do that here? Let's see.
No, I think you need to be able to. We had this in a packet.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
it's
so.
in the. It's on the town main website.
It's in the packet. Well, the packet has the site plan.
Yeah, it has images as well.
Does it? I didn't see any. Oh, it has
I
some
see images
images
of
that
the existing building. Yeah.
it has, yes, images associated with the plan set,
Yeah,
but not the building as it
not
stands. or anything
not
like
the
that.
plan.
Yeah, they're all interior, which are really irrelevant to us, I think.
Yeah, they
You
might.
guys, I don't know if that's.
No, that's not the real. That's not going to help us. Although we appreciate your diligent efforts. We need to share the screen in an
Yeah.
electronic way.
Let me see if I have them on the
They're in
portal.
the packet.
See if I could email you something over right now. Let's see what
We've still got Steve here. Is that intentional?
Oh. Yeah, I guess I'll.
Karen's just joined us from France, so.
Oh,
Yes. Hello.
after a
Bonjour.
I just emailed over to you, Walker. I don't know if that
Okay. Yeah, I'll open it in my email and then I should be able to.
is taking a second to load. Oh, I think it came through. And that would have. The proposed is on the bottom what the exterior would look, all 3 sides.
It's the first one in the packet for this site.
I mean, I can bring it up if I can share the screen. I don't know whether I'm allowed
Yeah,
to
if
do
you
that.
share the
You can share
screen,
your
several of us have access to it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's easy.
Some background noise somewhere.
So this, I believe, is the
Correct.
existing north elevation, and this is the
Existing.
existing west elevation.
Yes.
And this is the site plan. This is mostly interior.
Yes, I think the only drawings that we're interested in are the elevation. There's two sheets, the elevations existing and the elevations new. I want to point out that that in this drawing we're currently looking at, we have a sign with the lights over the top of it. It's a sign which probably says Bruno's or has some. And at some point, I would ask. I have not in this town, but in other parts of the world, I've friends who've bought houses in this situation are being asked to preserve the sign as part of the historic provenance and so forth. This may not be a case where we really want to do that, but I thought we might ask the question. And this slide shows the sign panel this is the existing condition.
I'm not sure that the Bruno's sign really enhances this in any way.
No, I don't know that having Bruno's written on it. I might suggest the sign panel itself painted out or painted into an accent
Oh, I
color
see what you're saying.
be preserved as a relic of its commercial days.
Did it begin as a house though, and get converted to a store and then back to a house?
Very possibly. I don't know. I could just ask, was that ever considered?
Rula.
Rilla, did you consider retaining the sign panel, the element, and just painting it in an accent color for that reason?
No, no, I didn't even think it would be allowed. So just like painting over the sign?
Yes, we're keeping it because it's part of the elevation there, and I don't know the detailing of it. It may be just stuck on the building in an awkward and not very nice way. But if it's part of if it's an integrated part of the siding, well, then I would ask why you wouldn't just keep it instead of taking it off and trying to stitch in new siding there. It would be presumably a less expensive way of doing it, and often people don't think of doing that.
Yeah.
And I know my niece and nephew in a house that they have in a historic district have it was a different circumstance. It was more militantly a Victorian commercial strip, and they were asked to maintain the not just the sign panel, but also the the lettering on it because it was considered, and they were happy to do that. In fact, they were planning to do it anyway. So I just thought I'd ask. I wouldn't necessarily think that it should be conditioned, but it might be a fun thing to do, and it might be something that appeal to you. Oh, there you go. You can see that it's actually. So you could conceivably just paint it out.
There you go.
There it is.
Or it looks like actually. Well, I don't know. Maybe what's in the black or red boundary is something that's applied, and that the panel is behind that. But I don't know. I thought it might be fun just to keep an indication that there was a commercial sign there once, and it was once upon a time that was Bruno's, and now it's not Bruno's anymore. But that's a vestige of its previous life.
So you're suggesting just painting over the Bruno, not having the letters showing, just painting
it over. Yes, I don't know exactly what I'm looking at there. So if that was a plastic piece that was 1/8 of an inch thick that was glued over it and so forth, you might want to take that off. But I'm as I say, I'm not proposing that we condition on this, and so I think I'd simply ask the homeowner whether they have any interest in doing that, and whether that excites them in any way, because I personally like to be able to see evidence of past uses in buildings. It's why I often don't take out windows and reinstate the siding. I put a panel in the window opening, and so you can see there was a window there, even though there isn't anymore. It's just a way of it's a design approach, I guess.
Well, I have a different question. How far back is this side panel that you can see in this picture? Is that noticeable from the street or?
That's, yeah, it's noticeable from the street, yes.
You can see in the side elevation how far back it is.
The side panel with that single door right there.
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's pretty visible. It's right there,
Is this what we're talking about?
yes.
I see.
I mean, I think you have to be driving right in front of it to see it. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't be able to see it from the front unless you're driving by. To me, it's visible because I'm so familiar with the building, but maybe someone driving by, maybe it's not so visible.
Mhm.
Sorry, what are we talking about?
So this is going to be
Oh, the whole of the electrical,
with all, yes, all this
Yes.
stuff.
really, I mean, this was a commercial use, so it's possibly got a pretty heavy, it's probably serviced provided for a pretty heavy electrical load. And there's multi-meters there and everything. Are your electrical loads going to be, do you need to have a new service or a revised service put in there, or are you just working with the existing electrical service?
That I'm not sure of yet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's probably, um, I'm not sure that I would want to condition an appropriate a certificate of appropriateness on them having a nicer looking electrical service, but others may disagree. I think it would be a very expensive requirement if we were to move in that direction.
Betty? You're muted, Betty.
I was hoping to see the plans for the front, the new plans. I see that was the picture of the existing, but is this the new right here?
No, I think it's,
That's existing.
That's existing.
Is there new, the one that you'd propose with the new window and doors, etc.?
there should be. I emailed it over to Walker. Walker, did you get the email I got?
It's in this drawing set. It's 6 drawings down.
It's 6 drawings down.
I don't
Thereabouts,
I
see
do
yeah.
also have it if you want to switch to, but
No.
yeah, it's the same drawings, the same plan set, so. Should be able to scroll down.
Yes, it is the very top one, 360. Who's Walker? Are you the one that's operating? There.
No,
No, I am. I can stop my share and someone else can take over.
Okay, well, that first set of drawings has got that first file has about 10 drawings in it. So you just scroll down. And we were looking at the drawing number somewhere about 4, I think it was. And after you've basically the drawing set shows a site plan and cover sheet, and then there are 2 drawings showing the existing plans, top and bottom, and maybe some new, and then you get to the elevations. So
I've got just the name plan. No, nothing
I got 'em.
more.
Someone had the drawing set open a while ago. It was open in a strange format with the.
that,
There we go. Now you've got the drawing sets on the slide on the
Yes.
right-hand side. Sorry, on the left-hand side, so it's easy to scroll between drawing sets.
so this, yeah, this is the new front facade. There's the door, window, and light that's being proposed.
Oh, so you are proposing to keep the sign ban?
That's what it looked like. The tech left it there. Yep.
Yeah.
And you're going to keep all those electrical things just right next to the front door?
Actually, there's going to be there's a different door added there to the to the other side. Where is it?
That's the back. Must
No,
be above
further up, I think. Right there, that door,
This,
the right is a new door. Yeah.
so that's gonna be the primary entrance.
Yes.
So is there a door on the front where there
No.
had been one?
No, it's gonna be replaced by a window right there.
Okay,
This one here,
uh-huh.
to get replaced.
No, that window to
This,
that,
yeah, the
I
door,
see,
yeah,
was
here,
there.
but this one will remain.
yes.
Were there
Okay.
any photos of the house before it was turned into Bruno's?
Yes. No, not that I found.
So this is a multifamily, I guess.
There's already 2 3-bedroom apartments upstairs.
Okay. And how many are going in downstairs?
2-bedroom and a 4-bedroom.
Okay, so a total of 4 apartments.
Yes,
Okay. So you're perhaps sprinklers, all the things that we don't care
yes,
about, but
yes.
that will happen. I don't, the siding is staying the same.
Yes.
The roof material is staying the same.
Mm-hmm.
All of the trim and so forth, it doesn't show it on this drawing that there is trim, but I imagine that there are corner boards, for example, and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's all basically the only changes to the outside are where you change windows and doors. There's from which mostly happens on this. Well, it happens. Yes, I think I've gone through. It seems to me that this is not terribly consequential architectural changes. I mean, it's a consequential use change because it's changing it from a commercial to a residential use. Is probably, I'm sure the assessor's not wildly enthusiastic about these kind of transitions, but that's not our business. It seems to me that it's a fairly modest change to the building itself, and the building itself is not a, shall we say, an iconic presence in the neighborhood, at least from an architectural point of view. So I think my questions are answered.
Are there any other questions or concerns about this house? Do I have a motion then to grant a certificate of appropriateness?
Well, I'll move to grant a certificate of appropriateness to the
Thank you.
project on what's the address? Something Main Street.
363.
363 Main Street. Finding that it's with it's fitting within those section of our bylaws, and that it's based on the drawings presented, that we should grant a certificate of appropriateness.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are we ready to take a vote then? Okay, Karin,
I approve.
Steve,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Steve, Bruce,
Yes.
Frida,
I approve.
Betty,
Yes,
and I approve. So we are granting you a certificate of appropriateness, and thank you for coming to our meeting and explaining the plans.
Okay, I do have one question. If we paint over the sign, what colors are we allowed to paint?
Any.
We have no ability to decide the colors. You have the full rights to change
Oh.
the color of the building if you want
Yeah,
to.
you bear full responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll be in touch with that certificate. You'll be getting it through the portal.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Have a good
Yeah.
day.
You too.
So that
You really-
brings us to our third one. This is the one at 295 Lincoln Avenue.
Yes, so they are proposing building a second dwelling, which would be an accessory dwelling unit. Which under the new state law is allowed by right, as long as it's less than 50% of the gross square foot of the primary building. And so you can't really regulate it through zoning, but you can still regulate it through non-zoning, such as local historic district bylaws, in the same way that you would any other house in the district. So this, you can still provide the same guidelines that you would to a regular single-family home in the district. And I believe that the applicant is here. Would you like to present the project?
Absolutely. Thank you, Walker.
Mhm.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan St. Hilaire. I'm the property owner of 295 Lincoln Ave and a local business owner. I've been working in the Amherst community for 19 years. I would like to give thanks to Walker, who was extremely helpful and went the extra mile to assist in scheduling and preparing for this hearing. Today, I would like to introduce the project, show the immediate neighborhood setting, which is located on the southeast corner of Lincoln Ave and Fearing Street, and share 3 different architectural configurations for the proposed structure, and finally provide a background on how we came upon the submitted designs. And I'm going to share screen here. Can you see the introductory slide there?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. This slide is the project description, which was circulated in advance. I will spare the details of that unless someone wants me to get into the specifics and move forward into the project and the neighborhood as well.
I just circulated in advance I didn't see that. Did I not?
That was part of the packet that went out.
Okay, maybe I didn't, maybe I didn't look hard enough, late enough. Okay, so I
Okay.
haven't seen anything on this project.
I'm happy to read through it, just so that if anyone
Oh,
has
I don't think
questions-
that's necessary. I just wanted to
Okay.
see if everybody, if I was not the only one who hasn't seen the packet, then that would be different. But I think this is fine. So keep going,
Okay.
Alan. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
So investing in the community by making property improvements is an important part of our mission of providing quality housing in the area. Over the last 3 years, we've made significant investments in the property at 295 Lincoln Ave, adding solar panels, new landscape plantings, and painting the property. These before photos are from 2022, and the after photos here were taken last fall of 2024. I know color's not under your purview, but we think that this color is a lot more pleasant than the previous one was.
I agree.
At this point, I would like to introduce the project, which is a detached accessory dwelling. And as Walker did some introduction, Governor Healy passed a bill that changed statewide zoning that went into effect early this February to allow these protected use ADUs by right. The following slides are to show the immediate neighborhood setting. 100 Fearing is our immediate abutter to the east. And they just so happen to have an ADU attached to their house. The setback is pretty much right down to the minimum from our property line of 10 feet. And the slide here is to show that property from a different angle, as well as the next abutter at 98 Fearing, with the intention of kind of demonstrating the roof lines are very similar to the subject property at 295, around the 612 ranch home style roof line. This is a view from the intersection showing 295 Lincoln, 100 Fearing, and in the background, 285 Lincoln Ave. This is the proposed plot plan showing the positioning of the ADU on the lot with the existing dwelling. Nothing about the existing dwelling is changing. Nothing about the existing parking is changing. Our trash location is screened and not changing. The intention of positioning it in this corner of the property was to make it blend in a bit more and not be so prominent. And so it is, you'll see in our proposed designs, but we've proposed a low roof line to reduce its prominence and a much larger setback from the public way for the same reason. At this point, I'd like to show you some of the design details proposed. And again, we've put together 3 different configurations. The first one was meant to emulate the existing structure, which I can jump back up in the slides here to kind of show you the low roof lines, simple windows, no shutters, no divided lights, no difference in texture. And this was designed to be similar. And I understand that the commission, one of the commission's interests is to ensure that the architecture matches the parent building, which unfortunately in this case, there's not a lot going on with the architecture or the history of the property. It was constructed in the early 1980s. So another thing that we did was to lay out the elevations and show certain architectural features like the wall lights, the mini split compressors, the location of the electric meter proposed, and things of that nature, the dryer vent, anything plumbing vent, anything that will be showing visible to the public way. The second design, which will have all of those same components but have different architectural features, was an attempt at emulating the roof line and basic scale and proportions of the existing dwelling, but drawing in some architectural features from homes in the district. The design is smaller, simpler, and less prominent, yet showing deference to the architecture of the area. That was important to me. I spent a few hours walking the district, researching and photographing many of the homes along Lincoln, Fearing, McClellan, Page, and Beston Streets, taking over 173 photos of homes and accessory structures. I believe that the proposed design captures the essence of many of these homes. So the biggest difference between this second option is the horizontal lap siding, shutters, 2/1 window lights. And of course, we have a smaller window in the attic gable end, which you'll see in many of the homes we researched. Some of the notes for these renderings, the colors are limited by our design software, so the final coloring and texture will be as per the material literature that we submitted. The railings on the stairs, we're hoping to not have those and have it be a cleaner look, but that will be determined by the building code and whether we can stay under the maximum number of stair risers that would not require railings. So that'll kind of come down to some of the final grading. The bushes shown in the renderings are for illustration. We are showing those on the sheet A7 here with the screen plantings in the plan view. And the electric meter location proposed, that is going to some degree come down to the determination by the utility company as to whether they're going to run power to the primary dwelling and then we run it underground to the secondary dwelling, or whether they run it directly overhead to the secondary dwelling. So we are requesting that both configurations be approved when the final determination is made, as well as both configurations with and without railings on the stair landings. The third configuration is very similar to the second configuration, only we put a higher gable roof pitch because when we present the inspiring homes, you'll see that many of those have a higher roof pitch. So we wanted to give consideration to the primary dwelling, but if that's not considered the most prominent consideration in the district, we also wanted to show some consideration to other homes in the district. So having said that, this is a plan view that would apply to either of the configurations, showing the window and door details, window and door locations, screen plantings. We have one in front of the electric meter location. We added another on the opposite corner for symmetry. We have one screening the air conditioning compressor from the Lincoln Ave view. You can see I show Lincoln Ave here on the bottom just to orient how this floor plan ties to Lincoln Ave. And then up on the top of the page, another planting to screen the air conditioning compressor from public view on Fearing Street. Those plantings are emerald green arborvitae, which will be 3 to 4 feet height at planting, and They have a mature height of 10 to 15 feet, but we're going to keep them trimmed to about 6 to 8 feet tall. And they grow at a rate of 1 to 2 feet per year. This graphic is intended to show the location in real world view of the location of the structure. This is from a direct perpendicular view from Lincoln Ave. This is kind of a view from the northwest showing that location, as well as the walkway from the parking area. We have a sample of the paver stone walkway in the right-hand side of the screen here. This view is from the public way on the sidewalk of Lincoln Ave to show the screening that's already in place from the southerly abutter. From the perspective of the southerly abutter, the secondary structure is going to largely disappear from that perspective. This shows from the parking area, and that yellow structure is our southerly abutter, 285 Lincoln Ave. This shows the trash location in the primary residence screened and underneath the stair landing. At this point, these slides are going to present structures in the neighborhood where we derived some of our design elements and tried to emulate some of those features. Of course, 98 Fearing, which is 3 doors down. We've got lap siding on the first floor, shingle siding on the second floor, small attic gable end windows, symmetry, and the gable end facing the street. Similar with 285 Lincoln, which is diagonally across, 11 Page, which is just around the corner. Again, we've got symmetrical features with the gable end facing the road. More examples of that can be found at 24 McClellan Street. You'll note that this has a secondary dwelling. There's actually 3 dwellings on this property in the back, visible from the public way. Similar symmetrical gable ends. 37 Cosby Ave. This is actually an ADU in the backyard of 37 Cosby as viewed from Page, and 16 McClellan. So those are to show the use of symmetrical gable ends, shutters, 2/1 windows. This slide is some examples of houses in the district that show differing texture between first and second floor, and second and third floor. We've got shingles or shakes in the attic gable end walls and lap siding, horizontal siding on the lower levels. And those are at 38 Fearing, 21 Sunset, and 54 McClellan. 143 Lincoln and 15 Allen are good examples of corner boards, shutters, and once again, differing texture on the gable end wall, symmetrical facades. At this point, I'd like to present some of the existing accessory structures and dwelling units in the district already, some that already exist. And the data that I present is from the tax assessor's records. Of course, the most prominent is 155, 157 Lincoln Ave, which is 2 dwellings on the same lot, the primary dwelling being 2,600 square feet and secondary 1,900. You can see in the inset here, the tax assessors map those 2 dwellings there in close proximity, both visible from the public view. Over on 1517 Cosby, very similar, 2 dwellings on the same lot. The front dwelling is 1,370 square feet, 2-story. The rear dwelling is 1,360 square foot, single story, and the upper inset there shows the street view. 24 McClellan again, to illustrate the 3 dwellings on the same lot. The secondary dwelling is, primary dwelling is 899 square foot, secondary dwelling 542 square foot, and the tertiary dwelling is just under 300 square feet. 37 Cosby Ave, showing 2 dwellings on the same lot. They have around 1,500 square feet for the primary, 736 for the secondary. This is the view of the ADU from Page Street, since McClellan or Cosby is on the corner of Cosby and Page. Over at 44 McClellan, there's a pretty significant 860 square foot detached barn. It's listed as a potting shed on the assessor's records. It's got a car charger and electric meter. And then over at 15 Beston Street, there's a 432 square foot studio noted on the tax assessor's records to have heat and plumbing. And of course, no research of the district is complete without a mention to the Robert Frost House. You'll note the corner boards, the symmetrical gable end facing the public way, and the differing siding textures between the lower and upper level. I can jump back up now to the slides that show our proposed architecture, so those can be discussed. Those are the homes that we derived inspiration from. And again, we've presented 3 different configurations here with the intent of capturing a design that's complementary to the immediate neighborhood and a broader sampling of the local district. At this time, I'd like to answer any questions from the board and welcome input as to which configuration may be the best fit for the neighborhood or the district. We're open to any or some combination.
Is this a one-story dwelling?
It is, yes. The proposed structure is a single story. There'll be vaulted ceilings on this one end, about 1/3 of the depth of the structure on the interior. And the principal dwelling is a 2-story.
Did you consider making it a smaller footprint with 2 stories?
We did consider that. However, again, we wanted it to be less prominent and kind of melt into the background as opposed to being tall and skinny. And you lose some efficiency with that configuration. So we propose this as the more elegant of the two, the proposed configuration.
Betty?
Since it's this size and it's 1 story, have you considered making it accessible? You've got just 1 step or 2 up to the front door. You could make it a totally accessible house.
We did not consider that, just being a single unit. We didn't have any requirements to make it accessible. And with the required exposures for the foundation, that's what is triggering those 2 steps.
Bruce?
I think this is, I've been, as Karen and I are both members of the planning board, and we've spent quite a lot of time over the past couple of months at least, talking about ADUs and the evolution of the regulatory structure that's been built around the Act that the applicant mentions and so forth. And we've been trying to figure out what level of control we as a town through the zoning can put onto ADUs. That's a context in which I'm at least thinking about this. But it seems to me, from the level of research that the applicant has done and the thoughtfulness and so forth, I mean, it's not an elaborately creative design, but the process by which you've thought about how it should look and where it should go seems to me to be a very good model of how we hope, or how I hope, that future applications for ADUs in any part of town would proceed. So I'm inclined to not get hung up with the problems that the town is having with trying to modify its existing bylaw, and simply to look at this from their point of view as a local historic district commission. I think it's, as I said, you've thought about this well. I guess if I had to express an opinion, I'd probably choose the design option that has the broken elevation at that one. But it's not a strong preference. I think the vertical siding would look fine as well. I never think that plastic shutters are a constructive addition to a building, because they're really non-functional and they usually don't have a proportional relationship to the windows they're supposed to cover. So and so it's not, in my view, money well spent. So I would never almost never be an advocate for vinyl shutters as decorative elements to be nailed up on either side of openings. But I think that one thing that I would ask or be curious about, and something that might add a little bit of interest and also functional value to the design, to the application, would be to put a shelter over one or both of the entrances. I can imagine somebody standing here waiting to be let in, and the rain would be dropping on to them. It would be quite nice, I think, to either, particularly with the 6-pitch roof, the lower pitch roof, you could simply extend the plane of the roof out over these openings and put a couple of posts down. You could even bring the steps up from one side, perhaps, or put a small piece of guttering in rather than a long piece. But I think that providing some shelter would be a nice functional thing that could be done, and I think it would add a little bit of interest aesthetically, formally to the building. And whether that's a gable end that's popped in and supported, or whether it's a continuation of the plane of the existing roof, either could work well. But I would recommend that as an addition to this. But otherwise, I recognize that it's a simple, very simple building put next to an equivalently or put in an area where there are a number of equivalently simple buildings. So I think it's consistent, and it seems to me to be appropriate. And I guess I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Steve?
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Well, first I want to commend you for your presentation. It was very thorough, and this is a unique case in which the ADU is actually better than the primary structure. I just have to tell you, as someone who was involved in creating the LHD in this neighborhood, the present structure was our poster child for why we actually needed an LHD. I don't know what the history of the structure was. I've heard rumors there was an old house that somebody wanted to put an apartment building, and in spite, the owner, when he couldn't get that passed, put up the structure that's there, which is, I think, pretty crummy. I think you've improved it, and I commend you for that. In fact, I wish you would consider redoing the principal structure as well as the ADU is. So if that's a possibility, because to me, that the structure that's there has always been a real eyesore for the whole neighborhood. You know, I took the seminar on ADUs, and so I know there's really nothing we can do about it, and I actually think the building is fine. My chief concern is the parking, and I don't know, and that's an iffy issue for us. Can I ask, how many people are you planning to house in this 900 square foot? I think I saw that it was a blueprint of 2 bedrooms.
Sure. Yeah. So it would be 2, perhaps 3. And the requirement for parking is not there under the ADU bylaw because it's within a half mile of a bus stop. And so what we didn't want to do was stuff the lot with cars and have it look even more congested. So the consideration to have fewer cars on site was the real driving factor there.
Yeah, no, I know. And right now there's already a parking problem at that property. I live like 2 blocks away. To me, this is a very short-sighted, law and also we're actually struggling with parking structures in LHDs and what our jurisdiction is over them. So to me, this is not going to be a settled issue today, but it's a real problem to build structures where there's no parking within miles. There's no parking allowed on Lincoln at that juncture, and there's no parking allowed on Fearing. So I don't know what our jurisdiction is and what, I think that if it was an unprotected, you would have to put one more space on, which wouldn't really make any difference. But I don't have any problem with the placement of the building, and I defer to Bruce's judgment in terms of which of the three is the best. But I do have a real concern, and I don't know what we as a body can do about it, about the where the parking is. But I guess the kids that will live there will have to deal with that.
Rita.
So I strongly prefer the model with the steeper roof. I think the steeper pitch of the roof fits into the neighborhood much better. And so that was my first. And my second is a question. The shutters, what are they going to be made out of, the proposed shutters? Are they plastic?
They are a vinyl composite shutter, yes, with the focus on lower maintenance, and so that we don't have peeling paint and things of that nature, rot, pests.
I prefer wooden, but I don't know. Then my third question is, I'm glad you're going to block the air conditioned unit with shrubbery and also the electrical. But in the primary house, that would be a really nice little addition, because when you're walking down Lincoln and you look at that house, the electric box is so prominent. So I wondered if you would consider putting one of the bushes in front of that too. And originally I lived here when they put up the original house, and I know the neighbors objected to the parking being, they negotiated with the builders, the town did, to block the parking with shrubbery. And for a while that was there, but then now it's long gone. But that's another consideration, is to have the parking lot area you have. I noticed you put gravel down, but having that area blocked from the public more the way it was originally proposed when they allowed that house. Anyway, those are just my thoughts, but I definitely prefer the steeper pitched. I think that's more characteristic of houses in the neighborhood. I think it'll fit in better.
Karen?
Yeah, I also commend you for trying to improve this particular residence by having an ADU, which perhaps fits in better than the primary house. And I agree with Greta. I prefer a steeper roof, even though it doesn't match the house. Anything you can build there that makes it a little bit more attractive would be great. And I also, I was there, I think we talked to you when you said that you had removed pretty much all the shrubbery because of maintenance reasons. But if you could find some way to do some plantings to make the Lincoln, just to make the residential area much, much more attractive, that would not entail a lot of maintenance. I realize it's hard to maintain all these things, but we would be really grateful. And I think it would add a lot to this particular area in many ways. Maybe then it makes it hard for people to park all over the place, but there's got to be a way that you can somehow have some maintenance-free shrubbery. And I just wonder if you would consider that. Yeah, steeper roof, and I like your colors, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Walker?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Alan said, that a protected use ADU is not required to provide parking, and that at least for right now, that you don't have any jurisdiction over parking in your rules and regs. So that's just something that can't be addressed by the commission.
Well, I wish you had chosen a smaller footprint and made it a 2-story ADU. I think it is almost the same size as the current footprint, and it looks quite large to me on that piece of land. And I find your design, some parts of it are attractive, but then the front door just looks plopped on there without any kind of character to it. No kind, every single picture that you showed us of other ADUs had some real character around their front doors, some real character around the roof lines, in ways that this house just doesn't. So I'm not as excited about this house as some of my fellow commissioners are, I have to admit. I see it as a very uninspired design, and not at all reminiscent of other houses in the area. I see that you're showing us some other examples. Do you want to defend yourself?
I just wanted to add that because they are smaller structures, that is why they're not as ornate. You know, there's a mix in the neighborhood of larger, grander homes and much smaller, more functional homes. I don't know if my screen is still shared.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So the homes that we researched, with the exception of a couple, you know, 98 Fearing has a small little roof over it. Lincoln Ave does not. Page has a little transparent roof over it. These three do not. And one of the things that I wanted to comment to Bruce's suggestion of a covered entry when the time was right is that we are proposing 18-inch roof overhangs around the entire building with the intention of providing that shelter. That's about half the width of that landing. So that was a consideration when we put the design together, was to do those large overhangs to protect the stairs and, quite honestly, the entire structure from the weather.
Karen?
Now that you mention it, Nancy, I agree. There's maybe you could, we strongly recommend that you look at making a more attractive entryway. I think it probably wouldn't cost that much more, and it probably would add a great deal to this very small house to have something that isn't just a door, but just an attractive door. So I would ask if you could just look into that.
Frida?
I guess I agree with Nancy and Karen, but I also don't even know if it's just the door. The doors you're showing right now look great, but it's maybe the raw wood handle rails that also are, you have on the main house, that are made out of, they're not painted, they're, I can't remember the term.
Pressure treated.
Pressure treated, yeah. So these doors without the pressure treated look better to me than the door with the pressure treated. So somehow making the door fit the neighborhood more, either by eliminating the pressure treated and maybe have a granite stair or something that is echoes the other houses. Anyway, I think it to me is the pressure treated wood that looks so raw. And it is what you have on the other house too. I don't know. I guess you can't paint it.
If I may just add to that, our preference is to not have those railings at all if it's not required by the building code, because we realize that those are kind of prominent parts of the architecture. But the submitted material samples suggest a white railing, a white vinyl railing if they are in place. It's just that the renderings that we provided, the color of the railings and things of that nature are somewhat limited. So we want to point out the fact that the submitted material samples are what's going to be used and not necessarily exactly what's shown on the renderings as far as colors go.
Okay, so that makes me feel better. I also urge you, when you have a choice, to use real wood rather than plastic, because plastic doesn't age very well and never really looks as good. So.
Yeah, the white railings that we proposed are actually a fiberglass composite. So they have the architectural detail of wood, but the weather resistance of other products they hold up well.
That sounds better. And I do appreciate the paint color. It's a big improvement of the old house.
Thank you.
So. And I'd love to see you somehow screen, here's a picture of your house, somehow maybe with, I don't know how, but that's not what we're ruling on. That's the old house. That's just when I walk by.
Yeah, when we put the solar panels up, we went to the staff member at the time, and they said that it was a certificate of non-applicability to add solar and to add the solar inverter.
You're right on that, so.
There's a difference, though, between a certificate of applicability and a desire to make a house attractive for the neighborhood. And we all live in this neighborhood. And I'd say your house is one of the least attractive houses on the neighborhood. And so for you to try to do something to make it a little more attractive would be appreciated.
Sure.
And I particularly feel that way about this house that you're proposing, because I think you have not, although you've given us some alternatives, I still find this front door a very unappealing front door with no character to it whatsoever.
Sure.
Bruce.
Yes, I'll just take my hand down. I think I wanted to point out that Alan's proposal, this was back about 15 minutes when we were perhaps saying how banal everything was. I wanted to point out that something about the way Alan's proposing that is significantly different and beneficial is the proposal to project the gable end roof by what looked like, judging by the shadow, at least 12 inches. And that is I think, a terrifically positive, beneficial design initiative from a historic point of view. It's small enough in concept, but the architectural travesties that have been perpetrated through the 70s and 80s and kind of continue with the kind of simple builder special houses that get designed is they have almost no gable end overhangs. I mean, and it really is awful. It looks so plasticky, so superficial, and it's also not at all good for the house itself because the walls have no protection at all from the weather. So putting running the gable end out on the north side as he's proposing, which you'll see is consistent with all of the examples that he's shown us, is a small but tellingly relevant and positive thing that makes what would what is a very small little rectilinear box with a roof on it just a little bit better than it might be. I guess I'm saying what Alan is proposing could be worse, and in my view, a lot worse, simply by not proposing to run that gable end out on the gable end overhang, simply by providing or proposing a gable end overhang. I could get into the constructional reasons, the simplicities and the cheapness and so forth associated with why so many buildings in the last part of the last century didn't have these. But Alan hasn't fallen into that trap, and I think he should be commended for it. And that's one of the reasons why this simple building actually, I think, does deserve our support. I don't actually agree with you, Nancy. I don't think a two-story building of this scale would be a better massing in the neighborhood. I may be wrong, but I do think that we should condition any certificate of appropriateness on the requirement to have sheltered porches over the sheltering roofs over the porches. I definitely think that those little balustrades on either side of the porches are unnecessary. I mean, the building code requires that only if you have a 30-inch drop to grade. If you're less than 30 inches, you're I'm just going to say I can't take this call. It's Linda Slakey. So I think we should condition any approval on the requirement of on the requirement of adding porches, and I think that we can also either condition or imagine that there will not be any balustrades, because I can't imagine that on that site that you're going to have a 30-inch difference. That would be something like what we're looking at here, where you've got 4 steps up, 4 rises. So those are 7-inch at least, I mean at most, maybe 6. So you've got 5 steps that would be driving the requirement of a balustrade from a code point of view. So I don't think it's going to be necessary, but I do think that we can expect or should expect that the architecture here could be augmented by sheltering roofs for the porches.
Ron?
Thanks for that input, Bruce. And we can double check the building code. My understanding was anything over 2 risers would require it, but we'll confirm that, and we share your preference that they're not there. I
On
just
this-
wanted to address the scenario where they were required and we weren't prepared from a certificate of appropriateness scenario. So
Well, that's a good thought, I guess, Alan, and I agree with you that the pull-treated fiberglass material is an excellent material for this purpose. It looks like painted wood. It has all of the durability that it's much more durable. So if you needed to do it, fine. I don't think you will.
So if you wanted to condition it such that those would only be there if required by building code, I think that would probably achieve what everybody's looking for.
Okay.
So Alan, can I ask you a different question? In these other pictures that you're showing us, instead of having a level balustrade, it goes up the stairs. It's tilted.
Yeah.
Why, and it seems to me that would be more attractive than this just these 2 blocks of.
Well, Nancy, that's because they've got 4 and 5 stairs, and they need them, and it's relevant to, but he's going to have at most 1 step, maybe 2, if the porch is exactly at the level of the floor.
Yeah, I'm just saying that by the time if he's going to put something up, why not have it run all the way down the stairs? He's got 2 stairs there.
Well, there's a reason, but I mean, it's much easier to attach your balustrade to the porch structure. If you want to run it down to the lower part of the stairs, you have a whole new foundation situation you have to solve. It's not impossible, but
it would look much more attractive, though, I think.
If I could address that, as Bruce mentioned, the intent is to have this landing, which is required outside of an entry door, be 6-7 inches below floor level of the house, and then from that landing, it's 1 more step down to grade. So if we had those angled railings, there would be a post 8 inches away from the top post on the landing. So you would really only be seeing 2 posts. There wouldn't be any balusters between them because it's such a small step. On the houses, the examples that I showed, you'll see more steps, as Mr. Coldham mentioned. The 285 Lincoln, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 steps up. 98 Fearing, there looks like there's 5 or 6 steps up. So that's the primary difference, is just the 1 step, the angled railing really kind of looks out of place. And the reason they're on the landing would only be if they're required for height. So I think that the consensus is that nobody really wants to see them, and they'd only be there if it was required by building code. I just wanted to be prepared for that, so we weren't sent back to the commission just to discuss those balustrades. So I would have no opposition to a condition that they not be there unless they're required by the building code. I unfortunately don't think we can get away from the building code requirement, because it's preferred from an architectural perspective. And as far as the covered entrances, I don't have an issue with that. Probably something that is similar to Page Street or Fearing Street, where there's a small little gable end, is an option, or to Mr. Coldham's suggestion to just continue out the roof line over a couple of posts, the depth of the landing. We're open to either of those configurations.
Karen?
And then the only follow-on, I'm sorry to interrupt, the only follow-on question I would have would be, are you primarily concerned with the primary entrance or both of them? Because the entrance on the south side of the structure here is simply to address, two means of egress from a building code perspective. I don't see that as having a whole ton of use.
Karen?
Yeah, it occurs to me that instead of the plastic shutters, which nobody likes, some of those buildings, the ADUs, they had just boards that as trim around the windows and painted a little different color. And that was, I thought, very attractive. I wonder if that's something you could also consider. That wouldn't be a big thing, but would maybe make it a lot more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, thanks for that comment. We are actually planning, if in the material specifications, we're planning 3.5-inch trim around the windows and 5-inch corner boards. So again, the first option shows no shutters. So if the sentiment is no shutters, then we can drop them. And it could be a hybrid of no shutters with this siding configuration. And the trim, and this rendering doesn't do a great job of showing the 3.5-inch trim, but that's as Mr. Colden mentioned, that's the typical corner board siding on the as he said, travesties of the 80s and 90s architecture. So our window casing being 3.5 inches does enhance the openings. So we have no issue with omitting the shutters.
And would you have that 3.5-inch casing around the doors as well?
Yes, we would.
Greta?
I wonder if I could see the third drawing again, or the third.
Sure.
Yeah, so for me, the roof pitch is much nicer in this one.
No objection.
Okay, and I'd like the two color sidings, or the two different sidings. I don't mind the shutters if they're not plastic looking, and I kind of like them, but that's just, but plastic shutters don't do. If they look plastic, then I don't know. I prefer the wood or wood looking shutters.
Sure.
But I
Nicole?
definitely prefer the steeper roof. And I think it makes the unit look more like a cottage, not like a storage unit. So
Sure.
anyway,
If I could
that's
just
my,
add one comment to the shutters. We are, and I understand where you're coming from with the plastic looking big box store shutters. We are proposing a raised panel design, a 2-panel raised panel to emulate wood better. And I just wanted to point out that the shutter will be 47 feet away from the public way. So I think that making that determination on a visual may be a challenge.
thank you, Alan. That makes me feel better. Tell me again what the shutters are made out of.
It's a vinyl composite. We did submit some material brochures to that end. And
Okay.
it's a solid panel as opposed to the louvered shutters. But
Yeah, okay.
again, if the overall sentiment is no shutters, it's very easy for us to just not put them up.
I just don't like the ones that are made out of plastic
Sure.
and that look as if they're made out of plastic.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but I definitely like the steeper pitch and the two tones.
Thank you. When we researched the neighborhood, a lot of the structures had shutters. That was the only reason.
Yep,
for-
my house has shutters, so I guess I like shutters, or at least I don't mind. But I think it looks, I think it gives it a little added something to the windows. But
Nicole?
Again, just repeating everyone else's sentiment. We really appreciate you taking your time with researching what other houses were doing. And I think that kind of shows with you also just giving us several different options. And I think pulling in some of the appeal of the other houses, as people have expressed, I think you're getting with that like the two-tone on the siding, but maybe, if you're adding a black trim instead of the shutters, I think it's just not those ones, but even the next ones, like just they did the blue, the yellow, just multi different kind of colors bringing in just, you know, being quite attractive. So you're doing this with the multi-tone of the gray. So I think I was just kind of reiterating the broken siding with having the two different colors there and the deeper pitch. It's not in our purview to talk about the parking, but I think you're gonna have cars. Like I don't think they're gonna go to the bus necessarily. So it, you know, it's not part of our purview. It's just something thinking about whenever you're adding structure and adding people coming, they're gonna park somewhere, whether it's in your grass or something. Which, you know, is kind of part of the element that comes to the neighborhood, but it's not part of our decision making on this unit. That's all.
Thank you.
So what I'm hearing is that people prefer the two tones that you've got, your two-tone design. They prefer the deeper, steeper roof with a larger overhang. There's a division between those who want shutters and those who don't. I'm not sure that we've got a strong sentiment in one direction or the other. And there is a sentiment for some sort of overhang over your front door.
Thank you.
Are there other things that people would like to make sure goes into this, Bruce?
I've just composed a set of 6 conditions, which I would move a motion in support of. I've sent them to you, Nancy, and I've sent them to Walker. And if you like, I'll read them out.
Yes, please.
Maybe I'll make this a motion, and it can be, I'll accept friendly amendments and so forth. But that the motion is that the certificate of appropriateness be granted to the applicant on 295 Lincoln Avenue for an ADU based on the documentation submitted, with the conditions as follows. 1, that the roof pitch be 8 and 12. 2, that the shutters either side of the windows be eliminated. 3, that the dual siding material elevation treatment is preferred. 4, that the principal entry have a roof protecting the porch area, be it a gable or a continuation of the existing roof plane. Number 5, eliminate the porch balustrade unless required by building code. And number 6, because it's not evident on the drawings, but has been stated, that the trim around the windows and doors be 3.5 inches wide and that the corner boards be 5.5 inches wide.
Karen?
Nancy, there are 12 participants. Should we open this to public comment at all?
Oh, thank you for noticing that. Yes, we do need to do that. But before we do that, are there more things? Karen, Rita, did you have something else you
I
wanted to say?
wondered, Bruce, if you could clarify. I think it's number 2. It was too much architectural talk that I didn't quite understand. The roof. What were you saying about the roof?
Oh,
That's number 1.
Number 1, that it be an 8 and 12 pitch, which was
What does that mean?
your express preference, a steeper roof, basically.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know the architectural terms of that.
Yeah, the
That's the number.
terminology is that it rises 8 feet for every 12 foot of advancement. So basically it means that it's got a tangent of 12/8, but it's a steeper roof. It's a 33-degree roof. But it's one that we're looking at now, I think.
That's
It's
right.
the third one, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
And if
thank you.
Alan's comfortable with that, then, I mean, I guess we could ask after we use this, whether Alan's comfortable with these conditions or whether he would push us to modify them in any way.
I'm okay with the conditions as proposed.
We have 4 people from
Okay.
outside the panel who are attending, and 2 of them have raised their hands to speak.
And
Oh,
I have
bring
something
Meli-
else to ask Nancy when you're done with that.
Okay, can we bring Melissa Paris
Yeah.
into the room?
Yep. So Melissa, you should be able to unmute and make your comment.
Hi, it's Melissa Ferris and Graham Caldwell, my
Hey.
husband. We are the abutters at 285 Lincoln.
You actually have the wrong slide for the, we're your direct neighbors. We're the
yellow
the little
house.
library that you have a slide of looking. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
right next
we
to it.
are the actual next door neighbors that at 285 Lincoln. We wanted to say Alan has been a great neighbor. He has done a lot to really improve the house next door. You know, we have zero objection to this. I think we're happy that it's a single story. Otherwise it would be looking right into our house, which we don't love.
We're happy that there's no more parking.
Yeah, because there's
We don't
already
want to encourage more.
there's already a ton of cars there. I do think though that if it does result, as Nicole predicts, in people parking on the lawn, that is gonna look pretty bad. And I think that the idea of putting up more screening there would be fabulous. We're a little bit worried about, Alan, if you're going to have to take out a bunch of the trees that go between our house and yours, and what that will sort of do to the feeling of both lots.
Like the screening between them.
Yeah, the
And
screening between them. One of the major trees is definitely on our property, but there's several that I think between the houses that are on yours.
And we wanted to ask if you would consider planting like a row of arborvitae between our on the property line,
If you have to
Between-
take them out.
or just anyhow, if you would be up for it. And also we would like to say that we both like number 2, the less tall roof.
Well, yeah, I actually I see where Greet is coming from with that. It looks more like a cottage. I think they're much nicer than a lot of the stuff that we've seen from other neighbors. So, and again, Alan has really been like, he's done so much to make that house better, and he really is, I think, quite a great landlord. You know, and a good neighboring landlord. So we're stoked to be next to him.
Good, thank you very much. Can you bring Jesse Mager into the room next?
Hi, Walker. I think you're muted. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Jesse Major, 32 Cosby Avenue. I think I'm actually technically diagonally abutting this property, but so I go by 2 or 3 times a day at least. And the conversation sort of danced around the point I want to make. And when I read your charter as a commission, it says protection of distinctive characteristics of buildings and places. And it's that second part of places that I'd like to comment about, because this corner lot with the 2 or 3 next to it that you could see in Alan's own picture from the west side, they're basically big, naked, barren lots. And there's already a parking lot that you experience from Lincoln. And yeah, there's technically 4 cars, but there's routinely 5 or 6 cars additional in the grass already at this house. And so this is going to happen more and more, I'm sure, with the new law change. And Alan, I do appreciate what you've done for the house. I'm not trying to prevent this for you, but it's a bigger issue I see for the town, really. But this is the prime example to me, because it's very unsightly. Both this property and the abutting property is looking to the east. It's just pretty out of character of our whole neighborhood when you walk by already. And this is just going to add to that. It'll be an odd massing of buildings and sort of squeezed into these open lots. And so I don't know if the commission can require more screening, I don't know what the possibilities are, but I'd love for you all to consider that. And, you know, perfect example, all the pictures that Alan shared of existing ADUs, they're all tucked back and pretty much shrouded in lots of screening. And that's what makes them really unobtrusive and fit in pretty well. So yeah, other than that, I agree with all the positive comments. So, you know, just wanted to share that thought for you all to consider. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak? Walker.
Nate just emailed me a picture of a house further down the street that has a covered front door that I can show you the picture of right quick if you want to take a look at that example.
Please.
You see that?
Yes.
So that could be one way to do a more attractive and ornate front door that matches a house that's already in the neighborhood.
To me, that's much more attractive and that it gives it a much more distinctive character to it. I would love to see something like that.
I think that's what's intended in the motion.
This also has steps that are wider than the door and has these windows on either side of the door, so it creates more of an entrance rather than simply just a door.
Are those acceptable to you, Ellen?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to see the screen share. I don't know if that's a
You're not?
a view setting.
Have you turned off your own screen share?
I have, yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
I can see all the attendance, but I'm not seeing the screen share. Are you still sharing it, Walker? 'Cause
I
I'm just-
am. I can
Yes.
forward this picture to your email right quick.
That'd be
Maybe if
great.
you open up Zoom to be the widest, like over your entire computer screen.
Yeah, I'm still not seeing it, but I can look in my email.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
forwarded it.
she just sent it to you.
Got that open right now.
What we might note from that is that, Alan, I think your proposed porches are quite narrow, and if they were, say, 6 feet by 4 feet instead of 4 feet by, I don't know, 3 feet, we could perhaps encourage you to make a 6 by 4 porch, 6 foot wide by 4 foot deep, and maybe that could be an additional condition if because that would certainly result in a sheltered porch structure like the one we've just been shown. It would translate to what Alan's proposing, whereas if it was a smaller porch, 4 by 4 or something like that, it would look more like a telephone box that was attached to the house rather than something that was a little more generous.
I think that's a good suggestion. The other thing I noticed in that picture that Nate just sent is that there's a lot more shrubbery around the house, and it makes it look more like a residence rather than just a box. I strongly encourage more shrubbery when you put this in. I think it just will make it more of a neighborly house for the street. Do we, Karen, sorry.
Well, going back to what Greta mentioned was initially, I think, a requirement when this house was put in to screen the driveway. I imagine we could, a lot could be accomplished to prevent this being parking all over the grass if we put a condition of having some sort of screening to border that parking. Because as Nicole pointed out, these people are going to have cars, and it's probably the parking is already a problem. And then it'll be the students' problem, but it won't be the neighborhood problem of having the whole lawn covered, the remaining lawn covered with parked cars. So we could make a requirement, I suppose, to keep the character. And as Jesse said, this is going to be an ongoing thing, to really demand that there be some sort of screening to have the boundaries of the parking defined, and that we can't, just for protection.
Alan?
I would like to address a couple of, I guess I would say, adjacent accusations over uncontrolled parking. We do, as I said earlier, I live and work in the community. I drive by this property almost every day. It's on my commute to work. In the slides that I showed earlier, there are stones surrounding the parking area for that very reason, to control aggressive parkers. While there may be a guest that parks down the center aisle from time to time between the 4 parked cars, I have never once seen cars parked on the lawn. And if anyone has documentation of that, I'd love to see it or hear it. We keep a close eye on this property. And to, to kind of address some of those concerns, there is, controls through the rental permitting for parking. which are already in place. So if there is unruly parking and someone brings it to my attention and I somehow don't address it, those mechanisms are already in place. As far as screening the existing parking lot, we're not opposed, but the issue, and the previous owner and I are friendly to this day, the issue was that most all vegetative screening, because of the narrow aisle between the parking lot and the sidewalk, tends to mature and either grow into the parking area or grow into the sidewalk. So, if a 4-foot fence, for example, would be a better option because it's more slender, a stockade fence, that could be something considered. If screening of across the lawn to the west of the proposed ADU is preferred, we could put some arborvitae there for sure, because there's more room for that. But one of the challenges with blocking the existing parking has been the narrowness of the green space between the parking and the sidewalk. So it hasn't gone without consideration for us. And the parking control is of utmost importance to us. We want all of our residents to be considerate and to be good neighbors. And I appreciate the kind words that our immediate abutter mentioned, that we're a good landlord and we keep an eye on things. And I just want to, reiterate that and point out that, your worst nightmares on Main Street and College Street is not us. And to put us all in that same category is perhaps not appropriate.
Thank you for clarifying. I wasn't intending to say that you are of the same. It's more of a worry of
Sure.
the college students, not your hypervigilance about it. So I appreciate that.
And we have owned the property for the last 3 years. So.
Well, I think we've all noted how much better the property looks since you painted it. Quite appreciate the changes. It was a small change and it made a big difference.
Thank you.
Bruce.
I just want to say about screening and so forth. Whereas we've been able to, with what is now a 7-point motion, if we add the requirement for at least a 6-foot wide principal entry porch, we've been able to stipulate what we would like the applicant to do in order to be for us to approve the application for a certificate of appropriateness. But I don't know how we would proceed to get planting. There's no real way in which I can imagine in words describing how we could put planting in that would. So the only real alternative, as I see it, is to ask the applicant to come back with a planting plan for approval based on what he's heard. But I'm not sure that seems to be a bit of a reach for us.
Yeah, I think that's not a part of our purview. It was more a request, but it's not something that we can demand of him.
Okay, well, if we're comfortable with that, then I won't try and draft anything that relates to planting. And based on what we've heard from the neighbors and others, and based on what we've seen with Alan with his conscientiousness so far as looking at the neighborhood is concerned, maybe we just trust that the process will result ultimately in whatever screening that seems to be appropriate.
Alan.
I just want to add that I don't have an issue putting some foundation plantings across the front of the house. In that example that Walker shared, there were some low shrubs across the front of the house. No problem. We're happy to add those. It's not a big expense for us. It does soften the facade of the house. The only thing we'd like to avoid is anything tall enough to obstruct the light and ventilation for the occupants. I wouldn't want it so tall that it covers the windows just for the purposes of making the structure disappear for passersby. So if we can agree to, a low shrub below the sill of the windows, we don't have any opposition to that. And no opposition, Mr. Coldham, to the 4x6 primary entry porch. That's not an issue. It looks nice. We agree. So if we could get to those conditions and get to a certificate, we're happy to commit to that and then submit through Walker an updated set of elevations to demonstrate that. And perhaps the conditions could be subject to the submission. I am not available to attend the next meeting, but it could be presented at the next meeting, just to show that we are, prepared to comply with that condition. That's not an issue.
Thank you. Bruce?
I don't think we need to make any conditions related to planting. I generally, from an architect's point of view and from just health of buildings point of view, I dread foundation plantings a little. They tend to get out of control, and what they do is prevent air circulation and drying around houses. They're basically a bad fit for wood framed houses. It's not so bad if you've got a house which is not made of anything that corrodes, rots, or degrades with water, but that's not the way we build. And foundation plantings, particularly, are kind of treacherous. They tend to grow up and they tend to prevent the air circulation in the immediate vicinity of the foundation of the house, which gets wet because of what comes off the roof. So I wouldn't want to push anybody to put foundation plantings in. Landscaping out from the house and all that, that's fine, I think. But foundation plantings, I think, are not a good idea for a good house.
Greta? You're muted, Greta.
I wanted to go back and talk about the shutters versus the wood. And I wondered about leaving it up to the owner whether to do shutters that look like wood or the wood strips. But I don't have a strong feeling. I just
if you put shutters on, they're going to be plastic. No one puts wood shutters on anymore. They're too expensive.
Do we have sorry, Alan?
I just wanted to respond to the shutter comment. It is our preference to have the wider casings around the windows without shutters, but we only brought the shutters as an option to mimic some of the architecture in the area. So we don't have a strong preference either way, but with the 3.5-inch casing trim around the windows, I think that still, pays some respect to the existing dwellings in the district.
I agree.
okay. I did think the 4 buildings you showed with that looked really nice. So
Real shutters do look nice. There's a
They're
logic to them.
expensive.
We're not talking about real shutters.
yes,
Right.
so am I.
Okay, so we have a 6-point plan to with a motion. Do we have a second for this motion?
Point of order. It's a 7-point motion now.
You've added a second.
Yes,
What was
there's a 7th was that the porch, that the principal entry porch be at least 6 feet wide.
Thanks. Okay, we now have a 7-point plan. Karen,
I second.
are we ready to take a vote?
Yes.
Okay, although, so I'll go do a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Greta?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I also approve it. So congratulations, Alan, and thank you for your very thorough presentation. I think it was very helpful to us. And we also thank our visitors who spoke on behalf of your project.
Thanks very much.
So-
Thanks for all your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, what's next on the agenda, Walker?
1 sec to find the agenda again.
Proposed edits to the historic district bylaw.
Yes, that's what it was. So I think these are I don't think anything's changed since it was discussed at the last meeting. I guess, are we ready to take a vote on the proposed changes to the bylaw?
I think we are. Steve, do you have any concerns about it? You're muted.
I made a number of comments and I don't know if they were adopted or not. So
Yes, I
they
believe
were.
all the comments you made were discussed
Okay,
at the last meeting,
I'm
and
fine with it.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. Do we have a motion to accept it?
I'll make the motion for once.
Okay.
I
And,
move that we accept the changes.
and do I have a second?
Second,
Karen? Okay, let's move to a vote then.
Actually, I have a point of order. I wanted to, the one thing I wasn't clear was the definition of a parking area being 5 spaces. Was that ever being resolved? Was that ever resolved before? Why
That's-
the number 5?
That's based on regulations elsewhere in the zoning. So it makes it match with the rest of the zoning.
Okay, okay.
Okay. All right, then we'll vote. Steve,
Yes,
Rita,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yes.
Nicole,
Yes.
Karen,
yes.
and I approve it too. So thank you, Walker. This is progress that we've been waiting for a long time. Appreciate your help with this. What is the next thing on our?
and thanks for
Agenda?
those great minutes. It's great to have minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate a lot of
really
things that
terrific
Walker has been
minutes.
doing. And
Yeah.
she also, all may not realize, but she is very responsive to emails. So she has been really responding quickly to anything we've asked about. One of the things that I did ask about was what is happening on that property at North Prospect where they put up a fence without any approval. So would you say something to the rest of the group about that? Because they probably aren't aware of it.
Yes, so there was a fence put up without approval. I guess that some neighbors or abutters brought it to the attention of the building commissioner, and they now have submitted a sort of retroactive permit application. They're actually going to be on the next agenda, presumably, to appear before you.
Okay, so what else do we have on our agenda?
We've got the East Amherst study letter and survey to send out to property owners. But Greta, did you have a question
Well, I was
first?
going to say, Walker, that a neighbor brought up another house that put in a large air conditioner unit, but didn't block it. Now, I think it's larger than it's supposed to be without a block. And that's on, I'm not sure the number on Elm Street, but there are only 2 houses on Elm, so.
Okay, we can take a look
You
at that.
can see it when you drive down, and it's been there for maybe over a year. And I understand that at that size, it's supposed to have something to shelter it.
Okay, we'll take
One
a
of the
look. at
neighbors
it too.
talked to me about it.
Thank you.
So
Good. Has everybody seen the draft letter and survey? Okay, good.
Yeah, this was also discussed at the previous meeting, but the one detail I need still before I finalize the letter and send it out is we need to set a deadline for people to return the survey and a date for a public hearing after that.
Okay,
So I'm thinking presumably either sometime in May or early June would be good. For reference, I'm going to be away on a vacation for the last 2 weeks of May.
okay. It sounds like it's June then. And it could be June 2nd or June 9th. Steve?
I'm going to be away almost the entire month of May, so June 9th would be better for me.
Okay.
But Walker, could you send me that letter? I didn't see it in the packet. I'm sure it's fine, but I'd just like to take a look.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in
Okay.
the packet, but I'm happy to send it directly.
Yeah, I have a hard time getting to the packet for some reason.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a convoluted process.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll send it to you. June 9th sounds good to me. I think the 1st is the day I'm getting home. So the 2nd
Okay.
might feel a little tight.
yeah, okay.
So given that, any other comments or changes to that survey, or should I go ahead and put the date in and get those sent out? I'm happy to wait, Eve, if you want, for comments from you.
I'm sure it's
before
fine. I mean, I made some changes again, and I'm sure that they were, I think you took most of them, so I'm sure
Yeah.
it's fine. So this June 9th would be the hearing on the East Amherst LHT.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, it would not be a meeting of the commission.
So,
Oh, the hearing would be conducted by the commission.
right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could combine it with the meeting of the commission.
And so is 3 o'clock a good time for that hearing as well, or does that need to be at a different time?
You might consider doing that later just to ensure that people who want to attend are able to attend, if an evening would work for people.
I'm just gonna speak. I'm sorry to not raise my hand.
No, go
When we
ahead.
did it last time, we did a couple of them and they were at town hall. They weren't done remotely. Would they be done at town? Because there was a lot of people that came.
I think that's also up to you. I know Zoom meetings and hearings do tend to get pretty good attendance. People don't have to leave their house to attend, so they like it. But we could also schedule 2. You could schedule 1 in person and 1 here, or you could choose to do it in the town hall.
Bruce?
The planning board is routinely conducting hearings, particularly for our overlay considerations by Zoom. I think that's probably the preferred way of doing it.
Mhm. I think they generally get better attendance.
Well, let's do
Okay.
Zoom then.
What
Better
date was
attendance
it
seems
again?
like a good thing. Sorry?
9th.
The 9th.
Wednesday,
and-
the 9th. Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to set it for slightly later? Do you want to start at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
I mean,
What's
June
your-
9th is a Monday, not a Wednesday, right?
It's
That's
a
right.
Monday. Yes.
Yeah, okay, I thought you said, okay.
What time is good for people?
Well,
If you want it to be accessible to people who work, I would recommend 6 or 6:30, 5:30 at the earliest.
Okay.
Uh,
What?
6:30 is when the planning board meets.
Let's make it 6:30 because then people can have had something to eat before coming and how long should we allow for? Should make it 6:30 to 8:30 or what is the usual?
I don't think we have to set up.
You don't have to have an end time. Okay.
We have a start time.
Okay. Do we have to publicize this somehow, right?
Yeah, I'll send out the notices. I'll put an ad in the newspaper and post it on the town website, and I can ask the communications director to do a press release and stuff. And then of course it will
Great.
be a letter to the property owners as well.
So but the letter that we send to the property owners, yes, they will all get invited.
Yes,
to
they
this.
will
That's
all
great.
get it.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
And that's going out shortly?
Yeah, if it's approved, if everybody's in agreement, I can get it out this week.
Okay. I just know mail sometimes takes a little while and
Yeah.
all that. Great.
Sure.
Okay. We need we don't have a motion yet, right? But I think we need a motion to approve the draft letter and survey and ask Walker to send it to all the property owners. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion again.
Okay,
Mr.
Steve is
Motion,
our
I'm Mr.
motion maker
Motion
today.
today. I move that we accept the letter and have it sent out.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
I second again.
We're getting seconds from France. All right, we'll move to a vote then. Nicole,
Yes.
Bruce,
Yep.
Steve?
Yes, but I do want to make it conditional. We need to contact Chris Skelly to make sure it's cool with him.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, so I'll email him right now.
Okay, and Greta,
Yes.
Karen? And I approve also. Okay, so conditional on Chris, and if for some reason Chris can't be here, then we'll try to find a time when.
I'll
we all
email him
can-
right away and
Okay.
Walker, I'll get back to you by tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so that takes us to the LHDC design guidelines. And thank you for sending us those examples. Some came from Chris, I think. And there was one that was relatively close by that I thought was pretty relevant, actually. Bruce, you had something to say?
Yes, the site visit procedure was on the
Oh, sorry,
agenda
I missed-
before that, so either do
Right.
it after this or make sure you don't forget it.
But let's do this and then we'll go back to the site visit procedure. So Walker, I'm happy to help with this. And maybe if there's anybody else who wants to help, if you would just let us know and we can make a private meeting with Walker to get together and figure out what we need to do. I think we need to take some photographs as examples. There's some really nice language already in these, and it seems like a really good idea to me.
I agree.
Yes, so, oh, go ahead, Greta.
No, I just said I agree, and I volunteer to be involved too.
Okay,
I
great.
mean, would it be better to get to try to get a CPA grant and hire Chris to do it since he does this?
Sounds good to
Or do
me.
you feel like it's something that you guys, you think it's pretty straightforward?
I feel like we could do it ourselves, but it's your choice. What I was gonna say is that I had started to put together an outline of the categories that we would need, and was gonna ask for input on more specific details about architectural features and stuff, but I think that referencing the ones I sent out, it seemed like a lot of the information is pretty boilerplate and a lot of it's pretty standard. So I don't know that we need a consultant necessarily to come up with a pretty decent set of guidelines, but
Okay,
again,
because I know that he did, I know he did it for Brookline.
Yes, he sent us the Brookline one, which
Yeah,
is
okay,
a very detailed and very elaborate
okay,
one. I think sooner is better than later, and that's one
Okay,
reason
all
why I'm
right.
proposing that we move forward. Karen,
okay.
You're muted.
I didn't mean to have my hand up, sorry.
oh, okay. All right, so Greta and I will help you, Walker, and we'll plan a time when we can get together and
Sure.
see what else you need us to do.
Thank you.
And then the site visit procedure. So we didn't plan a site visit for this today's property. I assume it sounds like all of us managed to get past there ourselves and look at it. It was really helpful that he had set out those posts to show us where the outline of the building was going to be. And but there are times when we do need to have a site visit. So let's talk. Do people have thoughts about what they want? Bruce.
I mean, I'm thinking of the way the planning board does it, and which seems to work fine. Which is it's a case by case basis. The history of this commission, we've had site visits. For example, when we were considering the Pease Place project, certainly when we were considering the Amherst Media project down on Main Street. But actually fairly rarely. I mean, probably no more. I don't agree to Karen. You've been on almost as long as I have. Maybe 5 times have we gone on a site visit, and it's because we've concluded that we needed to. So I guess we could whether we need to establish some principles now that would indicate whether will be indicators of whether a site visit would be necessary or whether we simply leave it to a combination of Nancy and Walker to confer, and then if they decide that the site visit is proposed, then they send out an email asking us when we can come. I would prefer that solution rather than us trying to put together some descriptors of what would require the site visit and what wouldn't, because we're probably not going to cover the full territory. So I would suggest that we leave it to a conversation between Nancy and Walker, and then their recommendation, we act upon that by setting a time.
Well, let me suggest that you also all feel that you can write to me and let me know if you feel like a site visit would help you, because then I can work with Walker to set one up beforehand. Nicole, you wanted to say something?
Was part of this coming out of the gentleman, Mr. Roof, that thought that the bylaws were written that we must do a site visit on each application or something like that. So I'm wondering if that needs to be reread or confirmed. Because that's never been our intention as a group. You know, I think the definition is a site visit is our whole group going versus each individual member may look at the property from the public way. So I think I'm wondering if it's that distinction that needs to be clarified for the public. And then secondly, agreeing with Bruce, I think a formal site visit comes out of us not having enough information whenever we meet as a group. And it becomes a second tier of investigation on a property.
So I did
Rita.
talk to the building commissioner about this, and he did have the opinion that in general you probably should be doing site visits. It does say that you will in your charter, and it also does kind of prevent this issue of coming to a hearing and having additional questions because it gives the commission an opportunity to ask the questions of the applicant ahead of time, so you come to the hearing with all of the information. I don't think it's necessary for everybody to attend. If some portion of the commission is able to attend a site visit, at least some portion of the commission then has that information, has had the opportunity to meet with the applicant ahead of time. And you're probably right that not every project is going to require it, but I do think anything that's like a significant alteration of a building or in a newer building should certainly have a site visit, in my opinion.
Well, that sounds reasonable to me. I mean, we could have had a much shorter meeting today if we had first visited Bruno with the owner and or architect, and the same is true of this house down the street on Lincoln. So if not everybody has to be there, then I think it's okay. If we have to find a time when everybody can come together, that's a little more difficult. Bruce.
Nancy, I think you misrepresenting that we might have had a shorter meeting. And the reason I think you're not correct in that, or you shouldn't be correct, is that the site visits are very constrained. A lot of our conversation today was how we might condition approval of this applicant, and we're not allowed to talk about that outside of a public hearing. So the site visit is really only to gather data on the site. We're allowed to ask questions. We're not allowed to discuss anything. So that's why I think it's a bit like asking a lawyer whether you need a lawyer to ask Rob whether we should have a site visit. He's not going to say we shouldn't. But we really don't need it unless we have some aspect of the site that we have to collectively understand, as opposed to just familiarizing ourselves with the facts on the ground that are available to anybody who shows up and looks. So site visits, and we are not allowed to do any deliberation, and so it's not going to shorten a meeting, except unless it eliminates confusion.
But it involves a lot of information sharing, at least the ones that I've been involved in. If the architect is there, then they answer a lot of questions relative to what they have planned, and that's all I meant by that.
That's true. That's true. Oops, I'm going to take my hand down.
So
I guess
I think
honestly, though, if we're not all there, which I think is
then you
practically
don't gain
impossible,
anything.
then
Right.
all the information is going to be repeated when we gather on.
Right. I still think that if we're not all there, I'm not sure I see the reason for doing a site visit. So is it possible for us to alter that part of the charter so that it's not always expected that we be doing a site visit?
Sure it is. I don't know off the top of my head the criteria for altering the charter, whether it has to be
Okay.
Does it
council
really
vote or
does it really say we have to do a site visit? I mean, that I can't imagine that we're required to do a site visit.
I've got it. I can open it up right here.
Because the planning board's not. Or if it is, we've been routinely,
Remiss.
and it doesn't seem to show up. It seems to me, and again, the expectation that everyone will attend. I've been on the planning board now for 3 years, and I was on it for 7 years. Prior that's a total of 10 years. In no situation ever in those 10 years did I attend the site visit where all of the board members were present. It's usually at best half.
Then I'm not sure I see the reason why we require it, but
Trying to find it. I don't know if it's in the charter or just in the rules and regulations. So maybe I need to do a little more research on this,
Okay.
talk to the building commissioner again, and maybe there's a way to write it that the commission shall do a site visit or individually visit the property as determined
would
by
be-
the chair
yeah.
or something like that.
that would be excellent to do that, because I think we are routinely all visiting these properties. It's just that we're not
Yeah.
doing it together.
And since you are only considering things available from the public way, there generally may not be a reason for you to enter the property like there might be for the planning board.
Right, right. That's right.
Okay.
All right.
I'll
So
look into
we'll
it.
leave that one for the next meeting then to be resolved. Okay, then is there anything else that anyone wants to raise? Is there any new business, old business, unresolved business? Steve, looks like you have something.
Sorry. So there'll be no May meeting, regular May meeting of the LHDC. The next scheduled meeting is June 9th, and that will include a hearing for the East Amherst LHD.
But we will need to have a hearing before that for the North Prospect Street project. So you could do the 28th of April, or you could have an an extra meeting at the beginning of May.
And this is for the fence that was put up without any permission.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we meet on the 28th of April? Because several people were going to be away for May. But I mean, maybe it'll end up being a short meeting, but let's do the 28th.
Well, no, because that doesn't give me enough time to get the legal
Okay.
notes.
You need a 2-week.
Yeah, so it would have to be at least the 5th of May.
Okay, Cinco de Mayo.
I can do
work
that.
Does that work for everybody? Let's schedule it. And that does give you enough time, right?
Yeah, because it's 2 weeks in advance.
Okay. Do you anticipate any other projects coming to us during that time?
I just got an email today and I can't remember if it was you or the Historic Commission. Oh, no, that's a demolition delay. So no, I haven't seen any others at least.
Okay.
And if
So
they don't
maybe-
get in the next week, they won't get on that agenda. So
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Walker, again, for all of your work on our behalf and for working with Alan to come up with some better plans. I know you spent some time with him.
yeah, he's very willing to work with me. So
Good. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
All those in favor?
yes.
Yes.
Bravo. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.